Good afternoon, everyone. Howdy, welcome. If I could please have everybody's attention, I have a very important announcement. President Donald J. Trump, I repeat, President Donald J. Trump would very much likely endorse this introduction I'm about to deliver. Pretty sure I got everybody's attention now. A little less than a year ago today, at an event that we hosted during the '87 Texas legislature, I bumped into a credible young lady in the lobby of 901 Congress that happened to change my life for the better ever since. Her name is Erika Hatfield, and she introduced herself as the new co-state director for Convention of States, and she said, "I want to work with you to save Texas." When I asked her which specific policy objectives she wants to work on, this was her response, and I quote because I wrote it down. "I want lawmakers to come to Congress Avenue and do what they said they were going to do when they campaigned back in their communities. I want them to represent the same Texas values their patriotic constituents hold. I want to change the culture, and we can start with election integrity." My kind of lady. And then Miss Erika introduced me to Albert Torres, who, by the way, if you look up his biography, it'll say that he used to work for the Central Intelligence Agency. Do not be fooled. He still works for the CIA. Ever since I have met you, Albert, this is not a lie, ever since I have met Albert, every single event that I have been to, that I have spoken at, any engagement across the state, Albert was in the audience. You're here right now. So I started to pick up on what he was doing. I figured it out. He's tracking me. He's trying to make sure that I am who I say that I am. So I'm going to do him one better. I'm going to go ahead and validate my bona fides. I'm going to introduce him to all of the big leagues at this particular grassroots organization and show him just who I really am. So I went up to those grassroots leaders and I said, "This is Albert Torres. This is who he is. This is what he does. This is who he represents." Give this big old spiel. And they all just stared back at me, quiet, with a quizzical face of bewilderment, for a very long, uncomfortable pause, not a much like that, until they finally said, "If you're talking about Al, he's been coming here for years." If you haven't had the chance to meet Erika and Al, I'm proud to be the one to introduce them to y'all right now, because they are some of the hardest working leaders we have in this movement, and I'm honored to be their partner in the fight to keep Texas Texan. As a small token of appreciation, we have United States flags that presided over our beautiful building at 901 Congress during the '87 Texas legislature that are now retired, folded nice and neat, in shadow boxes with one word written across, Sentinel. Thank you for helping us keep watch over our beloved state. But there's more. We also have the Senior Vice President of External Relations, not for Convention of States, Texas, but for the entire organization nationwide, representing the 5.2 million activists that they have with their organization. Her name is Patty Meckler, and I've only known Patty for just about a month, but I can tell you all this, I have never met anybody with that much energy and enthusiasm when it comes to saving our country. Buckle up, y'all are in for a treat. Please help me in welcoming Patty, Erika, and Al to the stage.
I can tell you we are certainly blessed and fortunate to be here. We are very proud to be the lead sponsor of the TPPF annual policy orientation this year. We are thrilled to partner with you. You know, just last night when we were at the Visionaries Dinner, it was just such a pleasure to get to be with Brooke Rollins again. And it was making me recall back, about 8 years ago, when Brooke Rollins made the official endorsement of Convention of States action on behalf of Texas public policy. And we were so proud to partner back then, and we are so proud to be partners now. And to look back then and see where we are now, it's just amazing to see the growth of Texas public policy, to see the growth of Convention of States, and to see this partnership grow together even stronger. And honestly, we just feel blessed, and we couldn't be honored any more than to be partners with y'all and be here with you now. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Convention of States, I should share with you a little bit about what Convention of States is about. And our flagship project is to call America's first Article 5 Convention of States. And to tell you where this provision came from, this provision actually is in the United States Constitution under Article 5, and it came during the original Constitutional Convention. And it was during that time, actually just 2 days before the Constitution was signed, George Mason stepped forth. And George Mason was the mentor of both Washington and Madison. And what he said that day was, he said, "We've made a grave mistake. You see, we've only left the privilege and the provision to Congress to propose amendments to the United States Constitution. And we have not left that provision to we the people. And we need to fix that." And then he went on to say this quote, "Should we be so naive as to think that a federal government that has become tyrannical would ever propose the proper kinds of amendments to restrain their own tyranny?" It was the only thing that the framers unanimously agreed upon without any debate from men who debated everything. So just think of the power of that and the vision that they had back when, to realize that they had to leave this constitutional emergency clause in the Constitution for us at such a time as we find ourselves here today. So Convention of States decided to take that provision and create a resolution to run through the state legislatures across the country in order to pass it in the requisite states. The resolution itself is to propose amendments to the United States Constitution that are limited to these 3 areas: imposing fiscal restraints on the federal government, imposing term limits on Congress and its officials, which, by the way, its officials means the staffers and the deep state and the judiciary. And then thirdly, thank you very much, I know it's more than 80% of the American people want term limits. And the third area is to limit the power, scope, and jurisdiction of the federal government. So when you think about that, you might think about getting the federal government out of our education system. Anybody up for that? How about getting the federal government out of our health care? Anybody up for that? How about getting the regulatory arm that makes laws that are unelected bureaucrats out of our hair, so that actually Texans who know how to drill oil in Texas are not told by politicians in D.C. as to what they are to do with their natural resources when they know very well what to do with their natural resources here at home in Texas. So Convention of States puts forth this resolution. We've now filed it in 49 states. We've passed it through committee hearings in 30 states. We've passed it through entire floor votes in 24 states, and passed it in its entirety in 15 states, including, of course, the great state of Texas.
Yes.
So now I want to share with you how we do it. Because how we do it is we've raised up a grassroots army across this nation. They are strategically located to cover 100% of the state and congressional legislative districts, and to the tune of 5.2 million citizen activists and supporters strong across the nation. We're the largest conservative grassroots army in the nation. Here in Texas, a little over 277,000 supporters and activists. We're very proud of our activists. They just do an amazing, phenomenal job. They are great patriots and great zealots in the fight. What I want you to know also is they don't just fight to call a convention, because many of them have already accomplished this. They fight to call the convention. They fight to make sure that they're going to hold the delegates accountable to propose the proper kinds of amendments, and they also are there to make sure that the ratification process is complete, and that they are accountable through that, as well as to hold the line of liberty forevermore. And that means at the federal level, at the state level, and at the local level. So here today I want to talk to you a little bit about that local level here in the state of Texas. Because being that our grassroots army is recruited, trained, and deployed in this fight for liberty, we realized here in Texas there was a deployment that we needed to do, and it would be in the largest school district in the state of Texas, to make sure that that Houston ISD, those runoffs that were won, those 2 runoffs, that was our team that was on the ground doing precinct walking, door knocking. We did telephone banking, we did text messaging, we did direct mailing. Each one of the targeted constituents and voters in those districts that we went after that were like-minded, identified as like-minded, and likely to get out and vote in this race, we touched 8 times. So I'm going to have our state directors tell you a little bit about how they did it. So Erika, can you share a little bit about the block walking that we did?
Yes. So sign me up. I want to sign that petition. Again. So what I love about Convention of States from an organization, from a national level, I love the infrastructure that we receive or that we have to for our fingertips to connect with our grassroots army. And number 2, I love our Texas Patriots. They make me cry. Anyways, Janice, for example, if you would stand up. Janice, when she signed the petition, within 30 minutes, she got a phone call from our follow-up team. And that's how we reach out to our people. So you sign the petition, and they get a phone call saying, welcome to the team, welcome to the family. And so then Janice, for example, she then started going to events. And so we met at an event, as well as she also met Andrew Barkman, our national block walking captain. And so she then immediately signed up as our state block walking captain. And so when the mission then came about for Houston, we reached out to Janice, and she then used our system to reach out to our volunteers and activate them. And so what we did was we all met in a parking lot. We had that survey in our hands that we did, and we went from door to door and told them about the early voting. We told them, most of them did not know that there was a runoff. They did not know who to vote for. And so we were able to tell them about the early voting dates and also give them that survey, which was very informative to them because this is a nonpartisan race, so it's hard to know if they don't have that letter behind their name as to what issues they stand for. So we're really appreciative from the national standpoint all the resources that we receive to do those kinds of activities.
The surveys that we did to these candidates, we decided that we were just going to ask them their position on 3 subject matter questions. The first one is, where do you stand on CRT? Second one was, where do you stand on the mask and vaccination mandates? And the third one was, where do you stand on the transgender issues as it relates to sports and bathrooms in your schools? And those 3 questions, we realized, would let our like-minded voters know who they wanted to vote for. So we didn't need to tell them who to vote for. We just needed to provide them the information and the transparency of these candidate surveys that we did.
And Al will tell us about the phone banking that we did.
Time pressure under 1 minute. I'd rather be working in the shadows, but here I am. We accomplished this by engaging our volunteers to make calls. We use a little app that we have, our Convention of States app, that has something else on it called Telepatriot, developed by one of our own volunteers. In that app, we're able to put down a script for our callers to make and be able to use when they make these calls to our voters. In this particular mission, we also included a link that we could actually send to them as well to give them a link exactly to this survey we just talked about. We had a mission to try to get this done in 2 weeks and make as many calls as we could. The Texas team made 2,757 calls, and we got 33 other states to help us, and by the time we were done, we completed over 16,000 calls to voters. We targeted District 6 and 7 of the Houston Independent School District. We didn't tell people who to vote for, but we made sure that they heard from us and they had the link to this survey, okay? And they were able to make that call. The people that answered that survey in those 2 districts won their elections. One of those people won it by a mere 78 votes. It shows that we make a difference. Okay? Over 16,000 calls in 13 days. But here's the most important part about this. I know I'm at time, but give me just a second. Here's the most important part about this. We didn't hire a call center to make these calls. These are patriots. These are people, American citizens, who are fighting for our country because they believe in 3 words: we the people.
That's right.
All right? We the people. They understand that it's incumbent upon us to save this country, to fight for those things that we believe in. Every one of those callers was able to engage, that anybody had picked up the phone and talked to them and tell them exactly what we're about, because they weren't reading from that script at that point. At that point, they were conveying what we believe in.
Absolutely. And the beauty of this is that as we've gone through all these wonderful sessions here at Texas Public Policy yesterday and today, what we realized is that what you all want is what we have. Because we have activists that are committed to the fight, and they will come to the fight, every fight, at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level. What I'm hearing so much in the breakout sessions is that, you know, there's new parents and new family members coming to the fight and for these school boards. But how are we going to keep them? How are we going to retain them? How are we going to use them the next fight that we have, and the next fight we have, and the next fight we have? What I love is back when Brooke Rollins, I think of her as the ultimate visionary, quite honestly. When I see all these visionaries come together at this dinner banquet, I think, man, she was an ultimate visionary, because she knew we had to build this grassroots army in Texas so that we could deploy them whenever we needed them. And to have 277,000 plus supporters and activists strategically located in every single state legislative district across Texas, and 5.2 million across the nation. What it means is what we did in this Houston ISD school board, it was a template for taking back every school board in the nation. So thank you very much again for having us here, and we are blessed to be in the fight for liberty with you all, and just know that we are here to continue the fight and fight with you, alongside you. God bless.
Yeah, conventionofstates.com, sign the petition, and then take action. Go to that Take Action tab.
Absolutely.
Thank
Come
you.
join the fight with us.